12 years old, my parents isolated my family from everyone we ever knew and everyone in the outside world, and we proceeded to hide in our house in a perfectly normal neighborhood, never talking to anybody, barely ever leaving the house from that point forward. Here's the first part of how that story started. So I'm the oldest of eventually 11, but at that point there was 8 of us, and I remember my childhood up until that point being fairly normal. Like, we were the unsocialized, sheltered homeschool kids. We still went to church every Sunday. We'd go to like one church activity a week. We'd see our cousins. We'd see extended family. I remember very vividly like going to one birthday party as a kid and being like the weird homeschool girl there because I had almost no experience being inside someone else's house, and everyone else was dressed as superheroes because it was a superhero party, and I was dressed as a Disney princess because we weren't allowed to watch superhero movies. I didn't have a lot going on, so when my parents wanted to ground me at 12 years old, I remember the only thing they could really take away from me, because I didn't have a cell phone, we didn't watch much TV, I wasn't hanging out with friends after school, was to take away my contact lenses, because I hated to wear my glasses. I had the worst vision in the world. They gave me a headache, and that was something that was so important to me, so they would take away my contact lenses. So I remember one Sunday, right when I turned 12, I had to wear my glasses to church for whatever reason, because I was grounded from my contact lenses. But I had my meeting with the bishop, like one of the church leaders, that comes when you're 12 years old, and it started out like normal. I'm not even going to go into the concept of those interviews, but it started out normal, and then he asked me about if I have any friends, if I ever go to their house, if they ever come to mine, and I thought I was supposed to lie to him, so I made something up completely, like named a girl I went to church with, said, yeah, I've been to her house, she's been to my house, she lives up the street, she does, but I've never been to her house. And he knew that wasn't true, so he called my parents in immediately afterwards and was like concerned that I felt like I had to lie in that moment. Said that like if they ever needed any help taking their kids to anything, activities, friends' houses, everybody in the neighborhood is basically part of the church, and they'd all be happy to help drive kids around because my dad's the only one who drives. And I remember my parents coming home from that and relaying that information to me, and then saying that people at church were basically trying to take their kids away and tell them how to parent their kids. We were never going to go back to church again. So we didn't, and from that point forward, we started driving across town or to the next town over to go sit in the hallway of churches, like a different ward every week, listen to the meeting on the intercom, and then leave before anybody could talk to us. And we were just conditioned that the neighbors, everybody outside of the house, were a threat. And I remember even writing like poems at 12 years old about how the neighbors were spying on us, and we had a sign on the door that said, please don't knock or ring, people are sleeping, so people wouldn't come to the door. And if someone did knock or ring, we had like protocol for stay completely silent, act like nobody's home. Sometimes we'd go peek through the windows to see who it was, but we weren't supposed to do that. And we wouldn't ride our bikes in the front yard anymore. We weren't allowed to be playing in the neighborhood. We had all of the blinds closed that faced the street, so that nobody could see inside of the house that was driving down the street or anything like that, like complete lockdown. And that's really just where it started, so I'll get more into it in the second part.